Can a single pill act faster than Viagra and provide a rigid erection with significantly fewer side effects? Is that even possible? Have you ever found yourself in a situation where the mood is right, everything is perfect, but you have to put everything on pause because you are staring at the clock, waiting for a medication to kick in? Or perhaps you have experienced the other side of the coin. The medication works, but you are trying to enjoy the moment while fighting off a pounding headache, a stuffed nose, or a face so flushed you look like you just ran a marathon. These are the two biggest complaints men have about the traditional treatments for erectile dysfunction. We all know the famous names like Sildenafil and Tadalafil. They changed the world when they arrived, but they are not perfect. They require planning, sometimes an hour or more in advance, and they come with a package of physical side effects that can sometimes ruin the experience they were meant to enable. But what if there was a second-generation option, a medication designed specifically to fix these bugs? Stick with me, because today we are diving deep into Avanafil, often sold under the brand names Stendra or Spedra. It is a treatment that many people still don't know about, but it offers a unique combination of speed and safety that makes it a serious competitor to the blue pill. By the end of this video, you are going to understand exactly how it works, the specific advantages it has over the older medications, and the real-world downsides you need to be aware of. To understand why Avanafil is different, we first have to understand what it is. In the world of erectile dysfunction treatments, we classify these drugs as PDE5 inhibitors. You don't need to memorize the chemistry, but you should know the history. Sildenafil, the active ingredient in Viagra, was the first major breakthrough. Then came Tadalafil, or Cialis. These have been on the market for decades. Avanafil is the new kid on the block. It was approved by the FDA much later, around 2012. If you think of Sildenafil as the very first iPhone, revolutionary for its time, but maybe a little slow and clunky by today's standards, Avanafil is like a modern smartphone. It was engineered with 20 years of hindsight. Scientists looked at the older medications and asked, how can we make this work faster? And how can we make it affect the rest of the body less? It typically comes in dosages of 50, 100, and 200 milligrams, and it was built for the modern lifestyle. So how does it actually function? Like its predecessors, Avanafil works by causing vasodilation. In simple terms, it helps relax the smooth muscles lining your blood vessels. When these muscles relax, the vessels open up wider, allowing a rush of blood to flow into the penis when you are sexually stimulated, creating a firm, rigid erection. But here is the critical difference, and this is the most important scientific concept you need to grasp today. It is called selectivity. You see, the human body is full of enzymes called phosphodiesterase, or PDEs. There are many different types. The one we want to block to stop erectile dysfunction is PDE5, found in the penis. The problem with the older medications, like Sildenafil, is that they are a bit like a shotgun. They hit the target, which is PDE5, but the spray is wide. They also inadvertently hit other enzymes. For example, Sildenafil impacts PDE1, which is found in the heart and the brain. It also affects PDE6, which is located in the retina of your eye. This is why so many men on Viagra complain of headaches, flushing, dizziness, or that strange visual side effect where everything looks like it has a blue tint. Avanafil is different. It is highly selective. If the older drugs are a shotgun, Avanafil is a high-precision sniper rifle. It was chemically designed to bind extremely tightly to PDE5 in the penis, while largely ignoring the other enzymes in the heart, brain, and eyes. This selectivity is not just a marketing term. It is the reason why the experience of taking this medication feels different for many men. Now let's talk about the main selling point, the feature that makes this medication stand out above the rest. the speed of onset. With traditional Sildenafil or Tadalafil, the standard advice is to take the pill roughly 60 minutes before you plan to be intimate. Sometimes, if you are lucky, it might work in 30 or 40 minutes, but you are generally dealing with a 1-hour buffer. That requires a lot of logistical planning. It takes away the spontaneity. You have to predict the future. Avanafil changes that timeline. Because of its unique chemical structure, it is absorbed rapidly into the bloodstream. Clinical studies and FDA approvals indicate that it can start working in as little as 15 minutes. Think about that difference. 15 minutes versus 60 minutes. It essentially functions as a true on-demand medication. You take it, and by the time things are escalating, the medication is ready to work. It creates a window of opportunity that usually lasts around 6 hours. This is shorter than Tadalafil, which can stay in your system for a day and a half, but it is plenty of time for most encounters, and crucially, it clears out of your system relatively fast. There is one caveat you should know, which applies to almost all oral medications in this class. It works best on an empty stomach. If you eat a massive high-fat dinner, a giant steak or a greasy burger, before taking it, your body will take longer to absorb the drug, and you will lose that 15-minute advantage. We talked about the sniper precision of Avanafil regarding enzymes, and this leads directly to its second massive advantage, the side effect profile. Because Avanafil doesn't aggressively attack the enzymes in your head or your eyes, the collateral damage is significantly lower. Let's look at the numbers, because they are quite revealing. Headaches are the most common complaint with ED meds. In studies involving sildenafil, up to 28% of men reported getting a headache. That is almost 1 in 3. With Avanafil, even at the highest efficacy, that number drops to around 10.5%. That is a drastic reduction. The same trend applies to facial flushing and nasal congestion. They still happen. No medication is completely free of side effects, but they tend to be milder and less frequent. And remember that visual side effect I mentioned? The blue tint or sensitivity to light? Because Avanafil has virtually no effect on the PDE6 enzyme in the eye, reports of vision changes are extremely rare. For men who stopped taking Viagra because they felt like their head was in a vice or their sinuses were completely blocked, this makes Avanafil a very compelling alternative. It allows you to focus on the intimacy rather than focusing on how weird your body feels. So, does this mean Avanafil is better than the others? Is it the perfect pill? Not necessarily. It depends entirely on your lifestyle and what you value most. Let's compare them so you can see where you might fit in. If you look at Sildenafil, Viagra, it is the old reliable. It is incredibly potent. We have decades of safety data on it, and it works for millions of men. But it is slower, and you have a higher chance of feeling those side effects. Then you have Tadalafil, Cialis. We often call this the weekend pill. Its superpower is duration. It stays active for 36 hours. This is great for a long weekend where you don't want to think about taking a pill every time. You take one on Friday night, and you are potentially good until Sunday morning. However, because it stays in your system so long, if you do get a headache or back pain, which is a specific side effect of Tadalafil, you are stuck with that pain for a long time. Avanafil, Stendra, is the sports car of the group. It is fast on, fast off. It gets you ready in 15 minutes, does its job, and leaves your system quickly so you can go about your day without lingering effects. In fact, there is a scoring system doctors use called the IIEF, the International Index of Erectile Function. In studies comparing patient satisfaction, men often score Avanafil very highly, not necessarily because the erection is harder, but because the speed allows them to feel normal again. It removes the waiting room feeling from their sex life. However, we have to be realistic. This medication is not perfect, and it has some distinct disadvantages you need to know about before you get too excited. The first major hurdle is availability. Because it was approved much later than the others, it is not available in every single country. Depending on where you live, you might walk into a pharmacy and find they have never heard of it, or they have to special order it. The second, and probably the most practical disadvantage for most people, is the cost. Sildenafil and Tadalafil have been around long enough that their patents have expired in many parts of the world. This means you can buy generic versions for a fraction of the price. Avanafil is still under patent protection in many markets. It does not have widespread generic availability yet. This means that, generally speaking, it is going to be more expensive. You are paying a premium price for that 15-minute onset and the cleaner side effect profile. Also, it is important to manage expectations regarding efficacy. Avanafil is a more refined delivery system, but the underlying mechanism is the same as Viagra. If you have tried Sildenafil or Tadalafil and they simply did not work for you, meaning you had zero reaction due to severe nerve damage, hormonal issues, or other physiological problems, switching to Avanafil is unlikely to be a miracle cure. It works in the same way. It just does it faster and cleaner. And of course, just like its older brothers, it acts on blood pressure. It causes vasodilation. Therefore, it is strictly forbidden to mix this medication with nitrates, which are commonly used for chest pain or heart conditions. Mixing these can cause a dangerous drop in blood pressure. To summarize, Avanafil represents a modern evolution in the treatment of erectile dysfunction. It addresses the two biggest frustrations men have faced for 20 years: the awkward waiting time and the uncomfortable side effects. With an onset of action around 15 minutes and a high degree of selectivity that spares your head and eyes from unnecessary chemicals, it is a powerful option for men who want spontaneity back in their lives. It might be harder to find, and it might cost a bit more than the generics, but for many, the quality of life improvement is worth the investment. As always, this is information to help you understand your options. If you think this might be right for you, you need to have a conversation with your doctor to see if it fits your specific health profile. If you found this breakdown helpful and want to stay updated on the latest developments in men's health, make sure to hit that subscribe button. There is always something new to learn about how our bodies work. Thanks for watching.